There have been a number of reports on how climate change is imperiling the city of Venice. But some projections indicate there's an even more urgent danger: depopulation. The city is losing about 1,000 residents every year as millions of tourists squeeze them out. Special correspondent Christopher Livesay reports.
Venice, more than any other place in Italy, has withstood the test of time. Very little has changed since this lagoon city was built in the Middle Ages, except perhaps the people themselves. You might even think the locals had been replaced entirely by tourists like these.
Obviously, most of the people here are tourists.
You arrive and it's too much.
I thought this was just a tourist area. I honestly had no idea people lived here.
Of course, some do. Giovanni Claudio Di Giorgio is one of them. He and his two brothers are concert musicians, but they fear they're becoming an endangered species.
When I go outside my house and I walk around in Venice, I feel alone, because I recognize that the people I see don't live here.
In the Renaissance, it was merchants who flocked to the Rialto Bridge, but today, it's tourists. A lot of them. In fact, there are so many that a lot of Venetians say they're just too many, and they're leaving as a result. In the 1950s, there were over 170,000 Venetians, but today, there are just over 50,000.
This is not as extreme as it was this summer. It was way worse.
How do you do groceries on a day like this?
You don't?
Of the Veneto to...
Susan Steer is an art historian who says Venice has always been irresistible to visitors.
The way particularly Northern Europeans, young men from the British Isles, would mark their entree into adulthood would be with the famous Grand Tour, and Venice was a place where you could enjoy some culture, you could enjoy some of the finer things in life, and you could be initiated into some of the carnal pleasures that Venice also had to offer.
So you mentioned something about the type of tourist changing.
Yes.
What's changed?
50, 60 years ago, Venice was an expensive place for many people to reach. Gradually, travel has opened up, so we have budget airlines who are bringing plane loads of people into Venice on a very, very regular basis. We've got budget bus services bringing lots of people into Venice.
And cruise ships. The sector alone employs 5,000 Venetians. Tourism at large brings in over $2 billion every year, by far the city's biggest industry. Tasked with the daunting role of managing it is the Venice tourism assessor, Paola Mar. So 6 tourists jumped into the water from this bridge.
Early in the morning, at 6:30 in the morning. They jump in the water and the canal.
We have 25 million tourists per year. It's our main business. The problem is one of mass tourism. We're up against people acting stupid, posting videos on YouTube. We have zero tolerance for that. If you jump in the water, you're fined 450 euros on the spot.
Starting this month, tourists can also be fined for having bicycles, feeding pigeons, and even sitting down in public squares.
I'm sorry, it's not allowed to sit here.
A common scene in crowded tourist sites where locals rarely visit anymore. But down a few back alleys, you can still find places where the Venetian way of life is unspoiled, like at this locals bar. The food on order, traditional dishes you won't find in most tourist restaurants. And the lingua franca isn't Italian, it's Veneziano, a dialect few outside the lagoon can understand. So there's differences from neighborhood to neighborhood.
Poi fare qualcosa è sempre...
Ti ga. So you have non tu hai, ma ti ga. Giovanni Claudio Di Giorgio introduces me to members of his club, Generazione 90, or 90s generation, young Venetians struggling to keep their beloved city afloat.
Venice doesn't have much to offer as young people, so we're trying to reverse this trend.
Would you like to stay and live in Venice and raise a family?
Yes, I'd like to. I'd like for my kids to have the same opportunity, but I realize that may not be possible.
Not possible, in part, because of the high cost of housing. Modest-sized homes can easily exceed $1 million, as apartments routinely get converted into vacation rentals, squeezing middle-class locals off the island. Thousands of people who work here now must commute from the mainland by bus and Vaporetto. But some refuse to leave, like these Venetians who have taken to squatting. Either they squat in a house or they have to leave Venice.
Yes, yes. For the people that choose, for the families that choose to squat it out, of course, it's not an easy choice. It's not it's like the last chance for living here.
For working class Venetians, she says mass tourism is killing the city. I posed that question to Paola Mar, the tourism assessor.
Killing the city? I wouldn't say so. Like anything else, mass tourism has its pros and cons.
She says the city is doing what it can to protect the housing market from runaway speculation by ramping up regulations on rental sites like Airbnb. If tourism continues unabated, the city may consider restricting flows into St. Mark's Square, effectively turning the heart of this once vibrant metropolis into an open-air museum. As for Giovanni Claudio Di Giorgio, he doesn't want tourists to stop coming altogether. He knows the economy depends on them. But if locals continue to leave at an alarming rate, he fears his generation will be the last that can truly call itself Venetian.
Would I want to have a family and live here? Yes, I would. Would it be feasible right now? No, I don't think so. We'll never be the same again, and we feel that this last generation is the generation whose responsibility is to ensure that more people have the same privilege as us.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Christopher Livesay in Venice.